it's your boy Kidzo coming back with another one. We're just reviewing some documentaries out of Toronto, bear gang member things. So, hit that like button and follow me, Zoe Life. Bow. You already know.
To more breaking news now, Vancouver police are investigating an alleged kidnapping, putting up surveillance video of the victim that they want you to see.
Officers say they're looking for Abdul Qadir Handoli.
They found a deceased male whose identity has now been confirmed as Farah Ursay Handuli.
He from a block that I ain't never heard of. Try to play with me, it's gonna be a bloody murder. I'm switching kids, but you know I gotta keep my burn. I don't wanna flex no bitch, I'm the biggest earner. You want the smoke, I got the wish.
Damn, that's crazy.
The story of the Neat brothers begins in war-torn Somalia in the mid-1990s, where their parents immigrated from as convention refugees. In the IRCA, the author notes that thousands of Somalis have migrated to Canada since the mid-1980s to escape human rights.
Definitely have a lot of Somalis here that migrated. Everybody is here, you know what I mean? Jamaicans, Haitians, everybody. We all up here, man. Canada,
The governing regime, as well as the civil war that ensued after the regime fell in 1991. With their home country in turmoil, the parents of the Neat brothers arrived to Toronto for a fresh start, but sadly, their troubles were just beginning.
Police say at 11:50 this morning, a dark SUV pulled up to this TCH complex at Shoreham Court. Two males allegedly got out of the vehicle, ran up to a wooden fence, and fired between 4 and 6 shots into a backyard where Hakeem and his friends were standing. Investigators say a man was waiting at a bus stop on Jane Street near Driftwood Avenue just after 3 this afternoon when he was approached by the suspect and shot 3 times. This double homicide happened about an hour after 2 other shootings just around the corner. Police say 2 men fired a number of shots at a teenage boy just south of the Jane Finch Mall at Driftwood Court and Venetian Crescent.
After escaping war-torn Somalia, the Neat family landed in Driftwood Court, a tough racialized community located in the north side of Jane and Finch, otherwise known as Up Top. The block became notorious for its predominance of drug use, criminal activity, and more recently, gang violence. From the Young Buck Killers to the G-Siders and the most notorious crew of them all, the Driftwood Crips, Up Top became infested with gangs donning the blue flag, many of which can be dated as early as the 90s. Factors such as lack of social services, recreational facilities, and overcrowded schools are a few of the reasons for the increased crime in the community. Growing up in Driftwood raised unique challenges for the Neat brothers and their 6 siblings. From a young age, 21 Neat reported several shootings in the vicinity of his home, the first one occurring when he was just 11 years old. The violence got so bad, his family would sometimes travel to the United States to stay with cousins in order to have a break from the violence in Toronto. Things didn't get any better for the Neat brothers when their father would become absent from their lives once they reached their teens. With 21 Neat being the eldest son, he took it upon himself to take care of his now single mother and his 7 siblings. After graduating from high school, he worked in construction, carpentry, and general labor as an apprentice, giving much of his salary to his mother. 21 Neat was on a steady path, but having to financially support himself and his 7 siblings became far too much for him to handle. Fortunately, by 2014, he would see a glimpse of hope when several of his friends from the Driftwood community started to gain traction in Toronto's burgeoning rap scene. From Robin Banks to Pressa to the Tall Up Twins, some have regarded Up Top as the GOAT factory due to how many talented artists were bred from the notorious block. The Neat brothers were often featured in the music videos for some of their biggest hits, but it doesn't appear either of them hopped into the studio right away, probably because they were too busy dealing with the feds. Legal trouble for the Neat brothers began with 22 Neat. On March 3rd, 2016, a home invasion robbery took place at a unit on 11 Shoreham Court, which housed a couple and their 2 young children. At approximately 10:30 p.m., the father was standing outside the rear door of his home, smoking a cigarette when he was accosted by 3 men. The father testified that a gun was pointed at him by one of the men, while a second man displayed a larger gun which he held under his coat. The robbers demanded $10.
This is huge. demanded $10. Damn. You trying to rob the man for $10 or some shit? Damn, that's crazy. All this shit, yo, these youths them need to stay at school. God damn.
Subsequently pushed the victim into his residence. Two of the three assailants entered the home while the third stood outside by their door. One of the assailants demanded a further $100 from the victims. A gun was then pointed at the victim's wife, who complied with the demand and turned over the money. As if the money wasn't enough, the assailants went out of their way to steal 6 containers of chocolate milk from the kitchen. One of the gunmen then ran upstairs to look for jewelry, which terrified the couple as their children were sleeping upstairs. So the wife rushed out of the rear door of the residence to a neighbor's house for help, somehow getting by the third assailant who was standing by the doorway. Her husband followed her, and the 3 robbers subsequently fled in the opposite direction and ran into another unit in the same townhouse complex. Unfortunately for the 3 men, the entire ordeal was caught on camera. So 6 hours after reviewing the camera footage, Toronto police stormed the residence the suspects escaped to and detained everyone found in the unit. Out of the 11 people detained, yes, 11, officers identified who they believed were the 3 robbers. 22 neat, Michael Mensah, and a 16-year-old boy who cannot be identified under the terms of the Youth Criminal Justice Act were all arrested and charged with robbery with a firearm and possession of property obtained by crime. Given the surveillance footage clearly showing the 3 perpetrators entering the unit after the robbery, officers had a more than ample basis to be suspicious of 22 Neat and his 2 accomplices. However, the judge handling the case believed there was an absence of evidence regarding the ins and outs of that residence from the time of the robbery until the arrests of the suspects. With the gaps in the evidence coupled with the lack of temporal connection between the arrests and the home invasion, the judge discharged 22 Neat and his accomplices on all counts, but 22 Neat's troubles with the law weren't over just yet.
Damn, they got freed up. That's crazy.
In front of them, there in
You
Antarctica.
get freed up.
There's been an archaeological dig there.
Damn.
Good evening, residents
From
of
home
Colorado
invasion.
took to the streets today, fed up
Got
with the
some
extreme
money.
violence that's taking over their community.
A 20-year-old man gunned down in broad daylight yesterday afternoon. He died in hospital. His killers are still on the loose. The victim is identified as Hamza Farhan. His family says this photo was taken just a few weeks ago.
Hamza Serhan and his 2 siblings were born in Canada, but raised in Lebanon until 2006, when they returned to Ottawa. Hamza went to St. Patrick's High School, then transferred to Nepean High School in grade 11. At Nepean, he excelled in rugby and basketball. A former football coach who coached Serhan during their 2008 season for the South Ottawa Mustangs Football Association said, "He was a great kid with a fantastic sense of humor." Not only was Hamza gifted athletically, but also academically. He had a keen interest in science and was studying biochemistry with hopes of not only finding the cure for cancer, but becoming a surgeon. He enrolled in pre-medical courses at the University of Ottawa, but being raised in community housing, the opportunities that others had didn't come his way easily. Simply put, he struggled financially. He confided in friends that he was selling drugs to make some extra cash. Unfortunately, he became a little too successful in his drug-selling endeavors, to the point Ottawa's anti-gang police raided 2 homes, one of them belonging to his parents. At the end of the 2 raids, police seized 2 vehicles, 37.5 grams of cocaine, 6.5 grams of crack, 60 pills of a prescription painkiller, a small quantity of marijuana, and nearly $12,000 in Canadian currency and $10,000 in U.S. currency. Hamza, then 19, his 22-year-old brother Mohammed, and 3 others were all subsequently charged with possession for the purpose of trafficking and possession of the proceeds of crime. Although these charges were withdrawn by May of 2017, Hamza's goal of turning his life around would be cut short just 4 months later. On September 20th, at around 3:20 p.m., Ottawa police received multiple calls reporting shots fired at 1500 Caldwell Avenue, an Ottawa community housing property. Witnesses described the scene of the shooting as a quick altercation among a group of people that sent multiple young men fleeing and mothers running to find their nearby children. When police arrived, they found Hamza laying lifeless in front of one of the units of the housing complex. One eyewitness told the Toronto Sun, "I don't know what it was about. He wasn't doing anything, just sitting there drinking a slushy." Another eyewitness told the Sun that the gunman, a young black male, was dressed in a gray hoodie and fled north on foot. 1 month later, Ottawa police issued a warrant for 22 Neat, believing he was the gunman in the shooting, which they later described as a targeted drug-related killing. At the time, this wasn't the only warrant out for 22's arrest. He had an outstanding warrant out in Milton, Ontario, after he assaulted a peace officer, and another in Vaughan in regards to a robbery. News of 22 Neat's trouble with the law would find its way to his brother, who became increasingly paranoid, and for good reason. According to court documents, shortly after his brother went on the run for Hamza's murder, 21 Neat was shot at 4 times within a 5-block radius. With the knowledge of his brother's gang activity, coupled with being shot at 4 times, 21 Neat purchased a firearm, moved to Calgary for a bit, then settled in Vancouver. From the following videos, it appears he spent much of his time giving back to the community, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, guy, get the bell down. Ah, big guy, get on. Get the shirt. Shout out to the bro. What you want right now? Anything you want. Let's get in there. Let's get in there. On the house. On the house. Shout out to the horse gang, yeah? Brother Doc, we're preparing on me. What you want? What you want? You want Big brother, I know.
Damn. Like niggas wildin'.
The meat way.
Feeding the fiend down. Feeding the fiends.
His time away from Driftwood didn't last long, as he returned sometime in 2018 after his friends began to grow within Toronto's rap scene. When he returned to the city, he finally took his chances with music and released a few songs. Appearing under the moniker 35 Neat, who is now known as YG, the rapper was arrested for attempted murder 2 months before he featured on the track, Money Music.
Money music on the beat, so it's neat. 40 with a dick, watch your fuck these little freaks.
The following incident has been covered in detail in the previous video. I recommend checking it out. With that being said, I will be providing a brief summary of what happened. June 30th, 2018, Regent Park-based rapper Smoke Dogg and his friend Cobra Prime arrived at Cube Nightclub to enjoy the Canada Day long weekend festivities. While there, 21 Neat showed up with 2 of his own friends, 16-year-old Keyshawn Jones, seen here in the black hoodie, and an unidentified man, seen here in the blue shirt. It is rumored days prior to the following incident, Smoke Dogg had dissed 21 Neat's close friend and fellow rapper Robin Banks, and 21 Neat wasn't happy about it. According to security working at the club, the 2 rappers engaged in a conversation which escalated to the point 21 Neat threatened to shoot Smoke Dogg, prompting club security to kick out the Driftwood rapper. From there, 21 and his 2 accomplices left in an Uber and arrived back a few hours later. This time, 21 Neat and Keyshawn Jones were armed with handguns and ready to confront Smoke Dogg as soon as he left the club. As anticipated, the Regent Park rapper left the club with Cobra Prime for a smoke break, and from there, the argument between 21 Neat and Smoke Dogg went right back to where they left off. This time, however, it escalated to the point of no return. In the midst of the argument, 21 Neat can be seen flicking his lit cigarette at Smoke Dogg, who in return pulls out a concealed firearm and fires numerous rounds at 21 Neat. 21 Neat runs into the street for cover, fumbling his firearm in the process. He then grabs it and runs towards Smoke Dogg, who at this point began fleeing. As Smoke Dogg ran for safety, he crossed paths with Keyshawn Jones, who can be seen on camera pointing his own firearm at Smoke Dogg and firing the kill shot. 21 Neat then catches up to Smoke Dogg, who is now laying on the ground, and proceeds to fire several shots into his lifeless body. 21 Neat and his accomplices then make their escape. With how heavily surveilled the area was at the time, in addition to the numerous witnesses at the scene, it didn't take long for Toronto police to issue a Canada-wide warrant for 21 Neat and Keyshawn Jones, but the gun-toting duo had already made their escape.
Enjoy the
Damn.
Peak streaming on Paramount Plus.
That's crazy.
After receiving
Right
countless
now.
death threats following the death of
shit,
Smoke
you know?
Dogg, 21 Neat fled to Vancouver for safety, where he employed himself through drug
It's
trafficking.
crazy.
It was a sustainable endeavor, to the point he was able to evade authorities for a year, but after one of his operations didn't go as planned, his run would finally come to an end. It all began on July 2nd, 2019, when a noted drug trafficker by the name of Arnold Hugh was tasked to collect and deliver $3,000. After receiving the money at a roadside from an unidentified male, Mr. Hugh drove to the Metrotown Mall and parked his vehicle in the parkade. By 7:40 p.m., a black Charger carrying Obinna Njoku, 21 Neat, and Abdullah Abdullahi pulled up and parked beside him. Njoku remained in the driver's seat, while 21 Neat and Abdullah, both armed with handguns, got out of the Charger and pulled Mr. Hugh out of his vehicle at gunpoint. They proceeded to shove him into the Charger and drive to 4960 Sanders Street, a nearby condo. Abdullah and 21 Neat escorted Mr. Hugh to Unit 1103, while Njoku left the premises. Once inside the unit, 21 Neat took Mr. Hugh's cell phone, erased all of its contents, and began texting someone using the alias Stay Chef In. The unidentified person he was communicating with was using the alias Stay Neat Always. The following text conversation between the two happened mere hours after the kidnapping occurred. 21 Neat begins by saying, "I'll really wig this kid." "You mean, what are they saying to you?" Stay Neat Always then sends an attachment and says, "They gonna up it right now, fam. You have to really torture the youth or next time they not up it." 21 replies, "Fam, if this youth wasn't such a good youth, this kid's gonna rat on me after. I'd rather keep him blessed and show him I know where he lives if he rats." Stay Neat responds with, "Yeah fam, don't worry. They're not ratting on no one." 21 Neat then says, "I took a pic of his ID. Right now we didn't do nothing, so he's not gonna rat. If I hurt him, he has a reason to rat. You feel me? I would have been cooked this kid if I was masked up." Stay Neat replies, "These guys won't rat fam. They're into deep with us to rat. They're gonna up the dollars neatly." 21 Neat then says, "This kid's a good dude fam. No cap. I seen everything on his phone. He's a gamer." CeeLo saying he's gonna up a bird on top. So 3 birds total. Each man takes a bird to the face. 3 is neat. The conversation ends with the two discussing how much money they were to gain out of the kidnapping, which was estimated at around $150,000. The next day, on July 3rd, 21 Neat and Abdullah devised a rather bizarre plan to extort money from Mr. Hugh's criminal associates. First, they stripped Mr. Hugh into his underwear, tied his arms and feet with purple twine, and had him lay in the bathtub. From there, they took several videos and pictures of Mr. Hugh in what police described as degrading positions. One video series showed Mr. Hugh in his underwear laying in the bathtub, with a gun pointed at him. A second video showed Mr. Hugh with a knife pointed at him by Abdullah and a mixture of sriracha, ketchup, and berries smeared around the bathtub. According to Mr. Hugh, 21 Neat and Abdullah wanted to make it seem like they had cut his finger off, so they concocted the mixture to use as fake blood. Another video showed Mr. Hugh laying on his stomach on the bed in the second bedroom. His feet and hands are bound with purple twine, and 21 Neat in a hoodie standing over him, pointing 2 guns at his head through a pillow. The last video showed Mr. Hugh crying as he recited a memory about his grandmother. The content was later forwarded to Stay Neat Always. Then, during the early hours of July 4th, Obinna arrived to Unit 1103 and briefly spoke with 21 Neat and Abdullah. They began making plans to release Mr. Hugh. However, police were already tipped off about what was going on and began organizing their own plan to take down the kidnapping trio. Efforts to save Mr. Hugh began noon on July 4th, with multiple snipers making their way to the rooftop of 6175 Nelson Street, a building adjacent to 4960 Sanders Street. The snipers were positioned to observe and photograph the condo. From their elevated position, the snipers were able to see 21 Neat, Abdullah, and Obinna communicating with each other on the balcony of Unit 1103. The snipers surveilled the 3 men for a little over 9 hours until ground officers began executing a raid on the unit. At 10:20 p.m., police began placing an explosive breach at the front door of the unit, when unexpectedly, Abdullah opened the door, looked into the hallway, saw the police, and retreated into the unit, locking the door behind him. After detonating a noise device, the police entered the unit and found Mr. Hugh located in a bedroom laying on the floor, but the kidnapping trio were nowhere to be found. That's because all 3 men climbed over the balcony of the unit as a last-ditch attempt to evade police. The snipers, still stationed at the rooftop of the adjacent building, witnessed 21 Neat scaling the exterior of the building, traversing from the 11th floor, all the way down to the balcony of the 5th floor. Based on these observations, a number of police officers went to Unit 503, where they arrested 21 Neat, who was found laying on his stomach on the balcony. About 2 to 3 inches from his feet was a loaded semi-automatic Glock and nearly $1,500 in cash. As 21 Meat was scaling down to the 5th floor balcony, the snipers also saw Obinna jumping over the balcony of Unit 1103 and onto the balcony of the unit right below him where the building property manager happened to be. Obinna then broke the glass of the balcony door, walked past the property manager, and uttered the word police to him. Obinna then headed for a staircase where numerous residents were being evacuated through. He then picked up a little girl he did not know, much to the dismay of her mother, and attempted to mingle with other residents to appear inconspicuous. After a few seconds, he handed the little girl over to her mother and made his way down to the lobby of the building where he was apprehended by members of the emergency response breach team. The last person to be captured was Abdullah because when he climbed over the balcony of Unit 1103, he slipped and fell into a bush. Police were unable to locate him until 10:25 p.m. when they found him in the bush severely injured. He was given medical assistance and taken to the hospital by ambulance where he remained for the next 2 months. With the trio now in custody, police conducted an extensive search of Unit 1103. Officers recovered a Desert Eagle semi-automatic firearm in the kitchen wrapped in plastic bags and the purple twine used to tie up Mr. Hugh, both of which contained 21 Meat's fingerprints. 21 Meat was subsequently charged with forcible confinement, kidnapping, and 2 counts of second-degree murder in relation to the deaths of Smoke Dog and Cobra Prime. Abdullah and Obinna were both charged with forcible confinement and kidnapping.
Very tense moments, Sophie, when residents heard a loud bang. One told us he could hear police yelling, "Stop resisting arrest." And another woman living on the first floor of this tower looked out to see the man who survived that 11-story fall.
Probably 10 to a dozen firefighters and paramedics working on this guy, but they're lying there where those leaves are strewn about.
This all unfolded after RCMP descended on this Burnaby apartment high-rise, responding to a report of a kidnapping and hostage situation. Moments before, people say there were police everywhere.
There was like 15 to 20 fully uniformed military, like assault rifle carrying people in our garage.
There's chaos going on then. And then they started to shout, "Get down on the floor, get out, or get down, get down."
I just grabbed my baby and they just ran out of the house.
Several residents say they heard a loud bang just before the man fell from the balcony.
There's some sort of police explosion flash that they used to shock whoever was inside the unit.
Members of the emergency response team then entered a suite on the 11th floor where 3 suspects were inside.
It is reported that they observed 3 persons exiting the apartment by way of the balcony. 2